That looked like 8k, but that was not a crit for some reason. So let me try this again. We are on 3 stacks. I'm gonna get Fingers of Frost here. Boom. Deep freeze. 15,000 and something. But I think it was 15,000. It went a little bit fast. I will have to look at that replay real quick. Greetings, people. My name is Sneptix, and today I just wanted to share with you my Frostwalker build. It's a build that scales with Ice Lance, Cone of Cold, and Deep Freeze. I started with Sinister Strike, Eviscerate, Arcane Intellect, and a Charge. And for my cards, I carded Slice and Ice, Deep Freeze, Winds of Winter, Ice Lance. For talents, I carded Howl of Winter, Shatter, Mental Quickness, Frozen Blade, Arctic Winds, and Vitality. So to quickly explain how this build works, I will start very basic, and then I will go into some other things that you could change in the future. So for the basics, you want to keep Slice and Ice up permanently. Slice and Ice requires a two-handed weapon, and while it's active, your Sinister Strike and Eviscerate critical strikes will trigger an Ice Lance if known. And I will say this about it, even if you don't know Ice Lance, so let's say you didn't card it here, even if you don't know it as a spell in your spellbook, you will still be firing off an Ice Lance. So the tooltip is wrong, okay? Just trust me on this one. Of course, unless they change it, that might happen, but for now, you actually don't even need to card Ice Lance. I would do it anyways, because you want to be able to spend your Fingers of Frost procs on something, single target wise. So Ice Lance is good to have anyways. But yeah, you don't technically need it. And yeah, as I said, you need a two-handed weapon for this to even be a thing. So this spell is your bread and butter, okay? This is your single target sustained damage, is firing off those Ice Lances and scaling that. Then we'll take Winds of Winter. So Winds of Winter scales off of Cone of Cold, and it's a combo point finisher. So you'll be stacking up combo points with Sinister Strike, getting those free Ice Lances off, and then you'll be spending this on AoE. For single target, you want to just... Obviously, you always want to have Slice and Ice up, but for single target, you want to spend your combo points on Eviscerate, and the reason for that is because of this talent right here called Frozen Blade. Frozen Blade makes it so your Eviscerate now has a 20% chance per combo point to grant you Fingers of Frost. So that's a 100% chance if you use a full combo point ability. Also, this is not one stack of Fingers of Frost, at least for me. This gives me 2 stacks of Fingers of Frost, so you'll be able to use 2 spells instead of 1 with the buff. The reason why I take Shatter is quite important. So Shatter right here, this card, basically makes it so you have 50% extra crit chance on your Frost spells whenever you have Shatter up. And this only works for Frost spells, and whenever you use a spell, it consumes a charge, right? So the whole point is you want to Sinister Strike, use Eviscerate to get those Fingers of Frost, and then you want to spend it on Ice Lance single target, or Winds of Winter also consumes it to get 50% extra crit. And this thing chunks. But just wait until we get into Deep Freeze. But yeah, this thing, pretty OP. This is your main AoE spell, right? Then I'm going Mental Quickness. That's a no-brainer. It's a hybrid build. At least I'm using this as a hybrid build. You could probably go full int here as well. Alright, quick transmission. This is Future Snap talking. It is 100% possible to go full int on this build. I will have to experiment with it to see if it's better than Agility, but after thinking about it for a little bit, not a lot of the damage comes from Sinister Strike and Eviscerate, and quite a bit of damage comes from magic itself. So it's 100% possible to go full int. As I said, I will probably experiment with it in the future, but talents such as Mental Strength and Lunar Guidance and such would probably be really good if you were stacking int. And getting spell power is also a little bit easier when you only have to account for int gear and not agility hybrid gear. So going int might actually be a valid strategy, and I will probably try that in the future and also try to get some better rolls as well. But yeah, then I'm going Howl of Winter, and this is for the Deep Freeze. So Cone of Cold, aka Winds of Winter here, because this is basically Cone of Cold, is gonna increase the damage of Deep Freeze by 50%, and it stacks up to 3 times. And this is for AoE rotation. You'll be spending your combo points on Winds of Winter, and then once you hit your Deep Freeze, it's going to be doing 150% increased damage. And you can see on the tooltip, it hits pretty hard, I will say. I'm in full blues right now, and when I tested it on the dummy, I was doing like 6 to 7k crits in full blues, and that was AoE as well because of this next talent, Arctic Winds. Increases all your frost damage, increases the duration of Deep Freeze. That's okay, it's it's a stun, but it's whatever. But your deep freeze casts now apply up to 5 frozen enemies within 8 yards of your target. So your deep freeze is gonna hit a ton of people. It's gonna hit 6 people total, your target and 5 others. And when deep freeze hits, as I said, it chunks. It chunks so goddamn hard. You'll be doing, you know, 911 bingdillion, 322 zingillion damage. It's absolutely insane. The damage on this thing is crazy. Then I'm going vitality for energy regen. That's pretty basic. And obviously I carded deep freeze because that's your main hard-hitting ability here. All right. Just a quick intermission. I thought it would be a good idea to show you the actual rotation instead of me just talking about it. So basically showing by doing. So the first thing you want to do is you want to stack up your combo points to 5. Once you've done that, you will proc Slice and Ice, and you will want to keep this up all the time. When you crit, as you can see with your Sinister Strike, you're going to be firing Ice Lances. Because of Slice and Ice, this is only when this is active. Then when you eviscerate, this does not have anything to do with the Slice and Ice. But whenever you do eviscerate, so now the buff is off, right? You will gain Fingers of Frost procs. This proc makes it so your frost spells, or your spells it just says actually, treats the target as if it was frozen. Which means if I cast an Ice Lance right now, it has 50% extra crit. And for Ice Lance specifically, it causes triple damage against frozen targets. So it's going to hit for 3 times as much, and it's going to crit way more often. For this part of the build, Slice and Ice is literally just your sustained damage. So you always want to have this buff up, as I said. But everything else also works without the buff. So I'm just going to not spend combo points on this for now. So again, we're gonna eviscerate to get Fingers of Frost. We're gonna stack up again, and then I'll show the next spell, because it's all your spells that gets treated as if the target were frozen. So we get 50% extra crit on Winds of Winter. So when I use this, it hits for 6k, as you can see. That's quite a lot, I would say. And it just says to enemies in a cone in front of the caster. So I don't know if this is uncapped, but 6k crits, uncapped AoE with blue gear. I mean, that seems pretty strong. You can see my weapon here is absolutely trash. It gives me PvE power, and that's about it. So you can definitely get better gear. Also, I'm in PvP gear as well. Like you can see PvP power on this, PvP power on this. You know what I mean? So you can get way better gear than what I have right now. So this is actually gonna just chunk so hard later on. But anyways, this guy, get a life. Jesus. Oh, this dummy's... Yeah, this dummy's elite, though. We're gonna go to the execute one. Anyways, once we're here, and we have Fingers of Frost, we will be able to use Deep Freeze. Deep Freeze requires the enemy to be frozen. And because we're not exactly freezing our enemies, we're just treating our spells as if they were frozen, we will be able to use it. So I'm gonna use it here in a second. So now we have Fingers of Frost, and I'll be pressing Deep Freeze now. 6k damage. 6.4 thousand damage. So yeah. That spell is really strong. Obviously, you would want to use your Ice Lance's single target, and if you're AoE, you want to spend your Fingers of Frost on Winds of Winter, like this. Actually, I think even on single target, you want to use this on cooldown, and then every other Finger of Frost you want to spend on Ice Lance. It looks like... Wait, hold on. It looks like Winds of Winter does more damage than Ice Lance's. Yeah, 6.4. Let's see here. Let me get some Fingers of Frost procs here. Running out of energy. Okay, there we go. Miss? Okay. Yeah. 1.3. So, on single target, you want to spend it on Winds of Winter first, and if this is on cooldown, then you want to use Ice Lance. That's how it is, because Winds of Winter is just too strong. So single target, you always want to spend it on Winds of Winter first, even if it's an AoE spell. And then you want to use it on Ice Lance, okay? But yeah, anyways, you can see 9,729 damage. Almost a 10k crit on a dummy here. And that's gonna hit 6 targets total, by the way, Deep Freeze. And as I will go over as well in the talents, there are ways to reduce the cooldown of Deep Freeze by quite a lot. Both when you hit with Ice Lance and when you hit with the Frostbrand weapon. So this build is, yeah, very fun. Very fun. So also, this is what the AoE rotation is gonna look like on a dummy here. Look at that. 6k crit. Absolutely disgusting. We're gonna get some Frost procs here. Fingers of Frost. You ready? 5.8. 10,000 damage on the dummy. Look at this shit, dude. We got interrupted by Goon, but... Look at this damage, dude. 6k AoE. absolutely filthy. And I went intellect main stat, and I barely have any intellect pieces, so this is basically this is fucking disgusting, dude. I'm telling you. Let's try the AoE dummies over here. Alright, let's try boom. 6k, 9k. Oh my god. Let's get into some other talents. All of this is basically whatever. I just rolled Biting Cold when I got to 60 with the scrolls. When your Deep Freeze deals damage, its cooldown is reduced by 33%. Really, really good. Then we have Arctic Explosion. Frost Shock now also causes an Arctic Explosion, dealing AoE damage to enemies within 10 yards and sundering their armor. This is going to be important later for a combo point finisher that I don't have yet, so I will go into that in probably an episode 2 once I've rolled some better things. Frosty Charge is just frost damage on my charge, it's whatever. Piercing Ice, 6% more frost damage, really good. Flash Freeze, again, your Winds of Winter is gonna chunk really hard as well, your main AoE spell. So stacking 45% extra Cone of Cold spell damage is really strong here, so that's why we take it. Shatter is, you know, again, bread and butter of the build. Thundering Strikes for crit. Aggression, really strong as well, because your Sinister Strikes and your Eviscerate are both gonna be triggering those Ice Lances that I was talking about. And even at level 30 or something, I think, I was hitting Ice Lances that were critting for 700, 800 or something at level 30, which is really, really, really strong. So more crit on Sinister Strike and Eviscerate equals more Ice Lance triggers. Find Weakness. Rogue ability critical strike chance increased, again only for Sinister Strike and Eviscerate in this build, just so we can get more Ice Lance procs. Then I picked Raise for more spell crit, again that's a no-brainer, Ice Lance, Deep Freeze, Winds of Winter, all spells. Then I grabbed Curse of Elements, or I rolled it I should say. Probably pretty good for longer boss fight durations and such. Down here for talents, what else did I roll that's important? I don't really think there's anything else. Yeah, that's about it. So that's what I rolled. What I could do as well in the future for some builds. Let's look up Frost Shock. This is what I was talking about with the Frost Shock. This talent makes it do, you know, AoE damage on the ground. But you could spend your Frost Shock maybe on this. Try it out. I don't know if it's going to be strong or not. But it might be. I don't know. But I'm going to see if I can try to roll it and let you guys know if it's worth to take or not. Or if you should just spend your points on Eviscerate for the Fingers of Frost procs. Other things that are pretty good is Sinister Flurry. I don't know, again, if there's a synergy here, but your Sinister Strike has a chance to trigger an additional strike. So I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, as I said, but I'm assuming that the second strike as well of Sinister Strike should be able to proc another Ice Lance. So per button, you should be able to proc 2 if they both crit. And obviously, this goes without saying, but stacking crit on this build is really strong as well. Shatter gives you 53. Let's say you have 25, you're already at 75% crit. And then you can take talents such as Incineration. This is the talent that I take on my Scorch build as well. But if you read the tooltip, it also says Cone of Cold spells. So Cone of Cold also works with this talent. So that's a 9% extra crit. So 75 plus 9, and you can see we're already getting into like the 80s territory of crit chance on Winds of Winter, your main AoE spell. So this build is going to be doing tons of damage. Another thing you can do, oh, it's not Frost Barrier, it's Ice Barrier. Ice Barrier, where is it? Chill to the Bone. Increases damage caused by your frost spells. Pretty good. That's 3% extra damage right there. But the capstone, your casted Frostbolt and Ice Lances versus monsters reduce the cooldown of your Deep Freeze by 2 seconds. This is really, really strong. Your Deep Freeze, again, main damage spell that's gonna chunk like super high amounts of damage as well in AoE. It has a 30-second cooldown, so you obviously want to lower it as much as possible. So with this, you get to lower it by 2 seconds for every Ice Lance, and you'll be triggering 3 Ice Lances again from Sinister Strike, so that should lower the cooldown a lot. And also, dealing damage with Deep Freeze grants you a lesser Ice Barrier, if you know Ice Barrier, right? Ice Barrier being just a free Absorb Shield. So every time you use Deep Freeze, your main big chunker hitting spell, you'll be getting a little shield as well. So it has pretty good self-sustain as well in the defense department. Another thing you could probably experiment with is Lava Freeze, picking up Lava Lash or just rolling it, and then incorporating Lava Lash into your rotation to increase the damage of Ice Lance and Cone of Cold by 20% and Deep Freeze by 5%, and this stacks up to 3 times, so that's 60% more damage on Cone of Cold. That would also be super strong. And it has a 15-second timer on it, on the buff. So I'm assuming you can just hit this every 14 seconds to just barely keep the buff up. Stack it up to 3 and your Cone of Cold is just going to be doing, yeah, immense amounts of damage. I'm not sure if this consumes the buff whenever you use Cone of Cold or Winds of Winter. But I will look into that as well once I get it. Then we have things such as Spell Impact, which just increases your damage of Ice Lance and Cone of Cold spells by 3%, so stacking up to 9%. And then you have procs, like on-hit procs, such as Amal Thassad's Malediction, and the other one that I can't remember the name of right now, that also just procs ice damage and slows. So you could go those two as well for extra on-hit damage. Another thing you could probably branch into is Frostbolt. So getting Maelstrom Weapon, which makes your attacks give you a little buff. When you're at 5 buffs, or 5 stacks on the buff, you will be able to cast a free instant cast Frostbolt. That Frostbolt will then allow you to use Elemental Rend Frost. So this might be really good for single target boss damage as well. I'm not entirely sure, again, because I don't have it. I'm missing both the Rend thing, and I'm also missing Maelstrom Weapon, so I'm hoping I can roll it in the future. But that might be really strong for single target as well. One other thing, again, there's more synergy. This build is absolutely nuts. We have Cut to the Chase. Your finishing moves, so not just rogue finishing moves, but all finishing moves, have a 33% chance to refresh your Slice and Dice duration to its 5 combo point max. So that means every time you use Winds of Winter or Eviscerate, you're automatically going to be reapplying Slice and Ice. So you will only have to keep this up the first time, spend 5 combo points on it, and then it will automatically get refreshed during your fight, so you won't have to keep uptime of this and spend combo points on it. Some other things you can go, again, more synergy. I feel like this build is very dependent on how many combo points you can get, because you just want to be spending them as fast as possible on Eviscerate, Ice Lance, and Winds of Winter and such. So you can go Seal Fate, I think it's called. Critical Strike from rogue abilities that add combo points have a 33% chance to add an additional one. So this is just good for combo generation. And then you can go Honor, I cannot spell, Honor Among Thieves, which also with the final capstone bonus makes it so you can gain a combo point whenever you deal direct damage to your target with a spell or an ability. And this can trigger every 3 seconds. So every 3 seconds you will just gain an extra free combo point. So that's really good for combo point generation. So I'm going to be going for those as well. Then we have a talent such as, or an ability I should say, such as Frostbrand Weapon, which also has a lot of synergy. It increases your frost spell damage by a lot, even more than Flame Tongue. So if you're going specifically frost, this is way better. Also, it reduces the move speed of the target, so free CC. But it has some synergy with Deep Freeze again. Remember the talent that would reduce the cooldown of Deep Freeze whenever you hit Ice Lances? There's a similar one for Frostbrand Weapon. Your Frostbrand hits extend the duration of your Deep Freeze by 0.3 seconds, that's whatever. Or reduces its cooldown by 1.5 seconds against enemies permanently immune to stuns. So if you're fighting a raid boss, raid bosses can't be stunned, they're immune to stuns. You will be able to just constantly reduce the cooldown of your main big hitting, chonker spell, basically, right? So Ice Lances and your Frostbrand Weapon, just from your attacks alone, is just gonna reduce the cooldown of Deep Freeze even more. So yeah, this build is pretty nuts once you have all the talents here. And there's even more. Your Deep Freeze applies Frozen Flesh. Your next 3 fire spells shatter the target's flesh, dealing Frostfire damage, so you could probably experiment with this. There's tons of synergies. I believe there's even more that I'm just cannot think about right now. But yeah, this build is absolutely nuts. For Mystic Enchants, I would just take, I don't have them yet, but I will go grab those. I would just take Aggression for more crit on Sinister and Eviscerate for extra Ice Lances. Then I would get Vitality for extra regen. Probably Precision's gonna stay for more hit chance. And then I would get Cone of Cold scaling things or Deep Freeze scaling things. Preferably Deep Freeze, because it hits just that bit, a little bit harder than Winds of Winter or Cone of Cold. So that's what I would go for REs as well. Okay, so I realized I left you guys hanging on the, I think it was a 10k crit or something that I did earlier today. So I was thinking I'm gonna try to stack it up to 3 on Howl of Winter and see how hard this actually hits. Because that was very unsatisfying. I believe I can get it way higher on the damage. So let's stack it up here. Actually, I'm missing indents as well. Hold on. Ah, it reset my thing. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so we're about to be on 3 here. That's 3. Let's stack up for an Eviscerate to get Fingers of Frost. And then let's hit a Deep Freeze here. That looked like 8k, but that was not a crit for some reason. So let me try this again. We are on 3 stacks. I'm gonna get Fingers of Frost here. Boom. Deep Freeze. 15,000 and something. But I think I think it was 15,000. It went a little bit fast. I will have to look at that replay real quick. Okay, so it does indeed look like 15,000 here on the replay. I will try to play it again for you guys, and we can try to pause it together. Wait, I think, is this where it is? I think this is here. Oh, that was 8k. Hold on. Yeah, okay, so 15,426 in full blues. So yeah. Imagine I had epics on. I feel like this would do a lot more damage. Also, did I... Wait. Oh no, and this is without... Wait, yeah, 15,426, but that's without the 10% bonus from mental quickness. So technically it should have done 1,500 more damage if it had procced mental quickness while I was doing this. So technically this should have been like 17,000-ish. 17,000 crit. Potentially AoE as well. 17,000 AoE crits. In full blues on a fresh level 60. You can see my health is pretty garbage. So yeah, if you do decide to try this build, have fun, I guess. Anyways, now that you've seen what this build can do on 3 stacks, that's all I have for this video. I'm gonna be trying to, you know, improve the build and make a future video, and maybe I'm gonna be doing some endgame content as well. I keep saying that, but for this build, I feel like this might be my my main build. So I'm definitely gonna be doing some main content with this build. And yeah, other than that, I will just see you guys in the next video.